slice of this decadent and delicious white chocolate and raspberry cheesecake is surely going to make your day. This is a wonderful recipe that's definitely a crowd pleaser. Let me show you how to make it. We'll start by preparing the pie base. I'm going to be making a digestive cookie base crust. Now you can use any alternative cookie, graham crackers, Oreo cookies. I'm keeping it simple with these. I've got about 200 grams of digestive cookies, which I'm going to pulse in my food processor until it has a fine texture. And just pour it into a mixing bowl. Add in your melted butter and mix everything together. I'll be baking my cheesecake in a spring form pan. I've already pre-cut a parchment paper in the shape of the base of my springform pan. And what I'm going to do is brush some butter on the base. And you want to add some extra on the sides. And once everything is nicely coated, place your parchment paper on the base of the pan. And what this does is it helps the serving of the cheesecake and the removal from the base of the pan. All right. Make sure that it's nicely set in, and then you can add in your crust base. It's important to flatten the crust very firmly and tightly on the pan. So I'm just going to use a flat-based cup to help me and just evenly spread it out. And now this is ready to go into the oven, which I've preheated at 180 degrees Celsius, and I'll bake for about 10 minutes. My crust is ready and I'm going to let it cool down. And in the meantime, I'm going to reduce the oven temperature from 180 degrees Celsius down to 150 degrees. And now I can start preparing my cream cheese mixture. I'm making it extra special and decadent by adding some white chocolate. Okay, so using a bain-marie technique, I'm going to melt my chocolate. I've got some water, about a couple of inches in my pot, which I've brought to a boil. And I'm just gonna add in my bowl. I'm using a heat-proof bowl. And once the liquid starts to simmer and you hear that bubbly sound, add in your chocolate. And here I'm using decadent, delicious Valrhona white chocolate. Allow the chocolate to melt for 5 minutes and then stir until it's smooth. You want to mix until it has a smooth and silky consistency and until all the chocolate chunks have melted. Okay, now this is ready for the next stage. Now, there are different ways on how you can prepare your cream cheese filling. Now, most recipes will suggest to just use a stand mixer bowl. Now the thing is that if you aerate the mixture too much, you're creating too much bubbles, and that risks that cracking feel or sensation when you're baking the final product. So what I'm going to do instead is just whisk with my hand, and this way I can mix everything without putting air into the mixture. I'll start off by combining my cream cheese and sugar. And I'm going to add in my sugar. And you can either use a whisk or a spatula. I'm going to start off with a spatula, and then I'll use the whisk afterwards, just because I want to quickly mix everything in and give this a nice smooth mixture. One key tip that I'd like to highlight is that it's extremely important that all your ingredients are room temperature. This does have a very important impact on the final result. I mean, look at how easy it is to mix everything together. Okay, you know, I might skip the whisk altogether and just mix with my spatula. All right. Next, I'm going to add in my cornstarch and vanilla. Add in your cream. Now, if you don't want to use cream, you can alternate with Lebanon, with yogurt, with sour cream. All work. Look at how beautiful this looks. I'm now ready to add in the eggs. I'm going to add them one egg at a time, mixing thoroughly before the next addition, and making sure not to overmix to aerate the mixture. This mixture just looks so good. All right, and for the final step, now that I've incorporated all the key ingredients for my cheesecake mixture, I'm gonna now add in my white chocolate. That sweet, sweet element. Gently fold in the chocolates. The smell of the white chocolate is just incredible. Pour into your pan. Gently spread the mixture in the pan. And another key tip to avoid any cracks on the top of your cheesecake is just to tap. And this basically releases any air that's been created in the mixture. And now I'm ready to bake this. Now, typically, traditional recipes would require that you create a steam bath effect when you bake this. So what you would typically do is wrap some foil around the pan and then situate it into a larger pan and add water so you have a hot bath effect. But what I'm doing is just baking it straight into the oven without any hot bath technique. What I've done is reduce the temperature significantly, and I'm just gonna bake this in the oven for about 50 to 55 minutes. This is a guide, but you will really need to check on it And what you want to see is that the sides of your cheesecake have kind of taken shape, and you want the center to feel a little bit wobbly. And what will happen is as it cools down, it will firm up to that right consistency. You don't want your cheesecake to be too soft, and you also don't want it to be too hard. Okay. I quickly want to show you how my cheesecake looks. The sides are set and the center has a wobbly feel and an opaque matte color. Now that's that perfect consistency and texture that I want for my cheesecake. I'm gonna allow this to cool down outside for a couple of hours, and then I'll place it in the fridge to cool for an additional 2 to 3 hours, ideally overnight before I add my topping and serve. While my cheesecake is chilling in the fridge, I'm going to start preparing my topping that I'm going to use to decorate my cheesecake. I've got 300 grams of fresh raspberries, and to it I'm going to add my sugar. And what I want to do is heat the ingredients together so the natural juices get released. And I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. So I'm going to gently mash my raspberries so that the natural juices come out. And I'm going to drain the pulp and use the juice to create that beautiful thick sauce that I'm going to use to coat my fresh raspberries. And that's all going to be part of the topping that I'm going to serve on my cheesecake. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. The sweetness from the chocolates and the tartness from the raspberries is just going to make this cheesecake wow. So you'll see at this point the juices are out and the sugar is dissolved, and I'm now ready to drain. Can't seem to find a bigger sift, so this is gonna have to do. And just gently drain the juice. Look at that beautiful color. Just toss the seeds aside and continue draining the rest of the liquid. This is the last of the strawberries. I'm going to rinse this because I'm going to use the pot again. I want to wash all the seeds that's left over. This is done. Let me put this aside. I'm going to return the drained liquid back into my saucepan. And what I want to do is allow this to simmer for another maybe 10 to 15 minutes until it reduces and has a thicker consistency. Once it thickens, it's going to develop into a beautiful thick sauce, which I'm going to want to cool before I toss in with the fresh raspberries. All right. This has been bubbling away now for nearly 15 to 20 minutes. It's reduced significantly, and all I'm going to do is reserve it in a separate bowl and allow it to cool down to room temperature. So my cake has chilled, my toppings are ready, and now it's time to assemble. With a sharp knife, I'm going to run my knife around the edge of the cake just to loosen it. And gently release. There we go. And since I have the parchment paper on the bottom, it's going to be very easy for me to plate. I'm going to get a spatula to help release the cake and then gently transfer. Yes! All right. Here I've got my chilled raspberry sauce, and what I'm gonna do is take my fresh raspberries and just toss it in. I want the sauce to gently coat the fresh raspberries. Look at that beautiful glaze. And then with a spoon, gently place on top of the cheesecake. Okay, now I'm gonna cut a slice for us to enjoy. All right. Decadent, rich, and super flavorful. The flavors are truly incredible. The white chocolate gives it a beautiful, subtle, elegant oomph of flavor, and it just is beautifully balanced against that tartness of the raspberries. Honestly, a beautiful recipe. Hope you guys try to make it at home, and I promise you will love it. Hope you guys like this recipe. Happy Valentine's Day, and see you guys later.